is talk about the world in 50 years, how 8 interconnected technology trends that are happening today are really going to transform the way we live, work, and play in the coming years, and how you as product managers can really make this future happen. Just as Mahip mentioned, I've worked in the technology industry for the past 20 years. Currently, I'm vice president of product at DFINITY. DFINITY is a blockchain-based computing platform, the world's first that can scale scale without bound and also run at web speed. But I've also worked in a variety of other sectors. I've worked in software automation at Automation Anywhere, team collaboration at Atlassian. I've worked in e-commerce at Microsoft and enterprise software in a variety of sectors. And I just think there's really never been a better time to be in product management than right now. I mean, it's an incredible, what we will talk about that's going to happen over the next 50 years is just, we're living in an incredible time, in a time of incredible opportunity as well. But first, a look back. The toddler in this picture could be any toddler, except that it's me. This picture taken in 1972 reflects a very different world. And as you see in the background, that television in the background with the rabbit ears is a black and white cathode ray TV at a time where there was no concept of the internet, that, televisions, there's a world of cathode ray televisions. The whole concept of a personal computer didn't exist. Computing happened through the creation of punch cards. There were phone books, for enabling you to identify, to contact your friends and businesses. And in fact, at one time, phone books were regarded as an untouchable business that just printed cash. Phones were all wired. There was no concept, of computing, and I don't think anybody could have imagined the world that we live in today. And one thing the reason I bring this up is that when people in 50 years look back at our world, we're gonna look as foreign to them as the 1970s looks as foreign to us today. And so we'll talk about these technology trends. We're not gonna notice them, day to day. These things are happening around us starting today. And the trends that I'm gonna talk about, these 8 interconnected technology trends, won't all move forward at the same speed. They'll, depending on the infrastructure investment that's needed or the regulatory changes that are needed, and there'll be variation in adoption by countries and by other factors, but they'll eventually create a new normal for things that we didn't know we wanted or that we would experience, but now suddenly do. So let's talk about these 8 interconnected technology trends, one at a time. The first is more powerful computing. We're already seeing this today through the advent of cloud computing. The great majority of enterprises today think cloud first in terms of building out their infrastructure. But what's even more exciting is how cloud computing and more powerful computing is getting pushed farther and farther to the edge of the network, and eventually will be in your home's wireless router or your mobile device, enabling data analysis and response in real time for the Internet of Things, for augmented and virtual reality applications, and a lot more. What's even more compelling, I think, about powerful computing is the advent of quantum computing, which is just starting today. Now, traditional, as we know, traditional computing is driven around bits that are 1 or 0 and are set within transistors, billions of which reside in the chips that power our computers and cell phones and so forth. What quantum computing introduces is the concept of a qubit, basically a computing unit that can be a 0 and a 1 at the same time. Think about this, like when you look at, say, a coin, it's heads or tails. And that's today's concept of a 0 or a 1 in computing. But imagine you spin that coin on your desk. That coin is in both states simultaneously. And that coin, that's the concept of a qubit. It can be in the states of 0 and 1 simultaneously. It can also be entangled or connected with other qubits. And what this ultimately enables is computing at an exponential scale. With every additional logical qubit added, it doubles the power of computing. And it's going to fundamentally change what's possible to compute. And that's going to really drive further advances in artificial intelligence, which will in turn drive breakthroughs across a broad range of areas: drug discovery, software automation, and more. So think about the context of exponentially more powerful computing now available everywhere. Starting with 5G, as we know, 5G is starting to roll out today, which will enable download speeds of up to 1 gigabyte, but it's going to go way beyond that. There's the advent, what's coming beyond 5G is 6G, where instead of being able to download 1 gigabyte, you'll be able to download up to 1,000 gigabytes or 1 terabyte. And there's talk about 6G being deployed through satellites to enable a world of wireless broadband everywhere. And to give you an example of what that means, being anywhere and being able to download 140 hours of movies in a second. So essentially what we're going to see is more powerful computing available everywhere and across a vast array of devices. And that's where we get into the next key trend, which is from any device. Next generation devices, the Internet of Things, truly freed from design constraints. Everything will become smart and everything will be connected, whether it's clothing, wearables, appliances, drones, autonomous cars, and the list goes on. And in addition to being connected through broadband everywhere, they'll also be enabled through ever declining cost in batteries, initially with lithium-ion batteries. What's even more exciting is some of the developments in solid-state batteries. Solid-state batteries don't rely on liquid ions as lithium-ion batteries do. And their benefits some of their benefits include they're safer, they can hold more capacity in terms of charge, lower cost, longer longevity, and et cetera. And this will just further enable this breadth of devices, which will share data with the cloud and with each other in delivering value in our daily lives. And then delivering intelligence, artificial intelligence algorithms identifying patterns. The more data is collected in real time across an increasing range of Internet of Things devices, the faster AI will identify patterns, insights, and recommendations. And we're going to see tremendous breakthroughs through AI, and you name the industry sector, and it will have an impact, whether it's in healthcare / drug discovery, security, finance, and the list goes on. But ultimately, as AI increases in its power, we'll see increasingly personalized experiences that are further expanded and through augmented and virtual reality overlays on our physical world. So the fifth key interconnected trend is automation. Automation for how we work and play. And automation isn't just in the digital realm, it's also in the physical realm. Today, in my former company, Automation Anywhere, we're seeing the combination of easy to use automation tools with artificial intelligence, enabling us to create digital assistants that can free our time from manual, tedious tasks. Think about the impact that the spreadsheet or the word processor had on freeing up human time to focus on more value-added tasks. And these digital assistants will be created through low or no code interfaces that enables anybody to become a programmer, right? Like whether and use these digital assistants at work or at home. But automation, as I said, goes beyond the digital realm to the physical realm. So through the broader adoption of other automation enablers, AI-powered design, robotics, and 3D printing, we're going to move increasingly toward a world of personalized and local manufacturing, where through 3D printing, we'll see the conversion of digital designs into physical goods at scale and deliver products in hours versus days or weeks, and even deliver these products for us and create these products for us in the home. And improvements for how we live. So the combination of quantum computing, exponentially more powerful computing, with artificial intelligence, with DNA sequencing, is really going to unlock a healthier world where we're going to see things like telemedicine empowered through the Internet of Things, rings, clothing, watches, tracking your biomarkers and becoming effectively a personal health assistant for you, giving you real-time feedback on your health, and also helping to detect diseases early. And then that combined with the sequencing of your genome, enabling the matching of medication for us as individuals with specific genetic variations. But we're also going to see beyond that, tremendous improvements or tremendous advances in gene therapy, enabling truly personalized medicine, truly personalized medicine, and enabling us to live longer and healthier lives. Trend number 7 is all around enabling transparency and trust through blockchain technology. If you're not familiar with blockchain technology, blockchain basically enables counterparties, buyers and sellers, to interact through a distributed digital ledger. And all parties that are interacting have a copy of the ledger, which cannot be altered. And smart contracts can be set up to enable automatic direct payment once the conditions of a contract have been digitally verified. And so what blockchain, the power of blockchain is that it removes the need for a middleman. And so this enables transactions to happen between, as mentioned, buyers and sellers, whether they are companies or individuals, between devices, the Internet of Things devices, including enabling things like microtransactions between devices, where devices can buy and sell data, provide information on the status of service delivery. But one other very exciting area for blockchain is enabling a new form of cloud computing. That's what DFINITY, the company I work for, is creating, is the world's first blockchain-enabled computing platform that can really deliver, that can scale without bound and deliver great web experiences, all toward enabling consumer and enterprise open internet services that are truly decentralized and available for anybody to use. The 8th sort of big trend, interconnected trend, is with all of, in an always connected and personalized world where data is readily shared and consumed, the need for security is only going to go up and go up dramatically. Today, just to give you an example, today it's estimated that one cyber attack happens, or one cyber attack incident happens every 10 seconds. That's 4 times the rate that it was 5 years ago. And you can only imagine in a world where devices are sharing information with each other and everything is connected and connected at broadband, the need for biometrics and other forms of personalized security will only go up. But the good news is, based on developments happening today, we will have over time improved control of where and how we present our data to the world. So these are the 8 interconnected technology trends that I see. And so to make this to ground this in a picture of what the future can be, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through a story of what life in 2013 can be. And just a couple of quotes that I particularly like is, Bill Gates's quote from a while ago, which is that we always overestimate change that will occur in the next 2 years, but underestimate the change that will happen in the next 10. The other quote I really like is from one of the founders of quantum mechanics, Niels Bohr, which is that prediction is very difficult, especially if it's about the future. So what I'm going to present is a snapshot of what the future can be, but I think even if some of these things come to fruition, it's a pretty compelling future that we can look forward to. So I'm going to talk about this from perspective of Ben, who's a product manager working at a company in tech. And so Ben's day starts like this. Good morning, Ben. The weather outside is 57 degrees and sunny. I've got your calendar up and the day's top headlines are ready when you are. Well, though he programmed this digital assistant himself, no matter how personal it gets, waking up isn't Ben's favorite part of the day. His digital assistant, set up in his smartwatch and connected with the rest of his apartment, has already turned on the bathroom lights and transferred his calendar and top headlines to the embedded display in his mirror. He washes up, throws on some clothes, and goes to the kitchen, checking the refrigerator panel to see what's for breakfast and the suggestion that it has for dinner. He chooses his dinner and breakfast orders for tomorrow, and the refrigerator automatically orders these and other groceries for delivery. While eating breakfast, he listens to his morning playlist, automatically started through the smart speaker. And after breakfast, he heads out the door, and his apartment turns down the heat, shuts off the lights, and pauses his music. Now, down in the front of his apartment, a self-driving electric car is already pulled up from his transportation service to which he subscribes, and it's ready to take him to the office at his usual time. In the car, his music playlist picks up right from where he left off upstairs, and his calendar and the day's top headlines have already been transferred to the thin panel screen in front. The car drives him to the office following the usual path. At this point in 2031, all new cars are electric and self-driving, and there are still some old school gas-powered cars on the road, but everybody knows that their days are numbered. Now, Ben is 25 years old, and his parents have said, geez, you really need to get a license at some point, but Ben doesn't really see what the point is of getting a driver's license given where things are today. So at the office, AI-enabled security cameras recognize Ben, unlock the glass door entrance, and automatically turn on his laptop. Now, occasionally, the screen on the door will prompt him for an iris scan when his arrival isn't expected, if he's like coming in after hours or on the weekends. So he sits down at his desk, and his laptop is automatically turned on, and he brings up his personal dashboard for the day. He's not surprised to see that his digital assistants have already been hard at work, prioritizing his chat and email messages, providing updates to team members on deliverables, and most important, scanning and prioritizing the latest data, analytics, and insights from his customers on the use of his product. These digital assistants, which Ben created himself, are really freeing up a lot of his time so he can think about the forward direction of his product. Now, the company that Ben works for provides a blockchain platform for financial services, basically providing an alternative to a lot of the consumer and small to mid-sized business, an alternative to finance for consumers to SMBs, basically by cutting out the middleman. What's great about the platform is that customers can use this to crowdsource short to long-term loans of whatever size, personalizing the payment terms in a variety of cryptocurrencies. Ben's product for consumer cross-border payments is growing like crazy, like the rest of his company's offerings. Banks see what's happening, and to compete with blockchain distributed finance companies, banks are now focused on providing strategic advice and personalized retail experiences for consumers, all powered by AI. So, the day progresses, and Ben gets out around 5:15. He steps out of his office and puts on his smart glasses. He's going to a meetup with some friends and some other people he doesn't know at a newly opened outdoor equipment shop. His sunglasses are connected to the 5G network, and the walking directions light up on the inside of his glasses. He really loves these glasses. It enables him to talk and text with friends, to listen to his playlist, and even when he was at the beach this past weekend, download and watch movies in seconds that are then projected on the inside of his sunglasses. So he walks into the shop and goes over to the designated room for the meetup. Now, and just like with bank branches, retail shops don't look anything like they used to 10 years ago. They're more of a place to hang out with the best curated stuff available, free appetizers and drinks, new people to meet, and helpful staff to make it a good experience. And of course, to help you order things online if they're not in the store. Ben's friends and others are at one of the tables, and Ben's glasses, now adjusted for the indoors, bring up the digital public profiles for everyone at the table. So everyone else at the table has, either through their mobile phone or smart glasses, are putting out a public profile. And this is consumable by folks like Ben that are wearing smart glasses. And it's really helpful to get conversations started. It's all, and everybody's in control of what they put out in their public profile. After the group gets acquainted, one of the retail staff starts demoing the latest smart outdoor gear. And Ben really likes the technical hiking jacket that has a flexible screen on the sleeve for an interactive map. With sensors embedded throughout the jacket, it can monitor his vitals and detect if he's had a fall, say while hiking or skiing. And this is really an automatically signal for help. And this is great for the backcountry skiing that Ben does. So Ben goes ahead and places an order through the retail staff before he goes, automatically transferring his clothing size through his digital profile. He picks up some new hiking boot laces on the way out. And of course, there's no reason to see a cashier because everything gets paid automatically through his smart glasses or his watch. So back home, Ben picks up the dinner delivery box in front of his door, touches the handle, and his apartment door auto unlocks. And automatically brings up, or turns on the 80-inch thin panel screen. And what Ben can see in the main screen on his personal dashboard is a video from his medical service with his daily health report, which includes AI-driven recommendations for food consumption and exercise. Now, on the back of Ben's smartwatch, a sensor has been taking measurements from his sweat, glucose, oxygen levels, vitamin balance, and other biomarkers. And it combines that with measurements of his heart rate, body temperature, and other data items, essentially to give him an everyday physical. What's also great about this AI-based medical service, this telehealth service, is that he can get prescriptions filled if needed without ever talking with a doctor. Ben hits play on one of his streaming services to continue watching a new series. He's opted for the lower cost ad-supported option. And he used to fast forward through commercials, but now because commercials are all personalized to him, he thinks he gets actually some pretty good entertainment value from them. And he watches a video about the smart jacket that he just purchased from the retail shop downtown. And the video shows how he can add a flat panel camera to that jacket to record his downhill runs. So he goes ahead and adds that to his jacket order. And the series that Ben is watching talks about what life can look like in the year 2040, and he settles in for the evening. So we're going to go ahead and let Ben settle in for the evening. But let's talk about what some of these trends beyond 2030 can mean. So, as we talked about in 2030, we're going to see ever increasing power in cloud computing and a push of data analysis and processing to the network edge. But by 2040, we're going to see truly the advent of quantum computing. In 2019, Google demonstrated they were able to solve a problem in 3 minutes using 50 qubits that normally would have taken a computer 10,000 years to solve. If we sort of assume the Moore's law as sort of the as a model on which quantum computing could follow. It's not inconceivable that we could see quantum computers with up to 4,000 logical qubits by the year 2040. We'll talk more about what the implications of that are in a moment. But basically, and then the next trend, available everywhere, we will see the full rollout of 5G, enabling up to 1 GB per second downloads in urban areas. But by 2040, with the advent of 6G and it delivered through satellites, we could see a world of up to 1,000 gigabits per second available everywhere. In fact, this past week, Huawei announced that they are looking at launching a test satellite for 6G, and their stated vision is to have up to 10,000 6G enabled satellites in the coming years that can enable worldwide broadband delivery from any device. So we will continue to see the acceleration of the Internet of Things through clothing, homes, and more, and the start of autonomous vehicles. But by 2040, I would envision all devices would be connected, and we would see smart glasses would go beyond glasses to smart contacts. And in fact, there are companies working on things like this today. And autonomous vehicles also going to the air as well, for not just for personal deliveries through drones, but even for humans themselves for commuting. Delivering intelligence, AI for narrow applications, but we'll continue to see AI advance to the point where it will be enabled through quantum computing and enabling a world where virtual reality, not just augmented reality, is available everywhere. With automation for how we work and play, digital assistants moving beyond just basic digital assistants to contextual digital assistants. You can envision a world where a digital assistant that you engage with through voice, it being hard to distinguish between a human and that digital assistant because it understands the context of what you're talking about so well. And a world also where 3D printing really brings manufacturing back to localities and also even into the home. With improvements for how we live and work, I think AI-enabled telemedicine enabled through wearables, like in the example we just looked at, to AI-enabled gene therapy and drug discovery toward personalized medicine is not out of the question. We're seeing today the beginning of blockchain being adopted, especially within distributed finance, but in a world of the Internet of Things, blockchain computing becoming commonplace between companies, devices, and individuals. And then lastly, the need for security growing, like starting with biometrics, smart cameras, and other forms of security. But one of the really interesting things about quantum computing is once you get up to about 3,000 to 4,000 logical qubits, that level of computing can break RSA internet security. In other words, make HTTPS no longer a valid cryptography approach. So there's conversations happening today around defining the next generation of cryptography, something called quantum cryptography, to replace the PKI infrastructure that we've built, that the internet's been built on, and a lot of our communications are built on. So quantum computing, in a way, will present the problem and the solution to security long term. But the story continues. I won't go into a lot of detail in these other trends, but these are things that are being talked about today. Human computer interfaces, general purpose AI, which doesn't have to get trained, doesn't have to follow a specific model, but then could just be applied to any problem, and to fully automated companies, regenerative medicine, anti-aging treatments, and the list goes on. So it really is an exciting time. And the farther we look out, the harder it is to say exactly what's going to happen. But the trends that are happening today in the first 20 years that we've talked about will continue throughout the rest of the period. So what I would say is two things. You know, when people in the year 2071 look back at us in the year 2021, they're going to wonder, well, how did they ever live that way? You know, like the whole idea of mobile phones and desktop computers, HTTPS based on RSA security, and, you know, gas-powered vehicles. We're going to look as if just as foreign to someone in the year 2071 as, say, someone in the, like, to us looks foreign in the year 1971. So I would say the other thing I would say is that there's really no better time to make the future happen than right now. And you as product managers play a critical role in doing this, regardless of what sector you work in or which of these 8 trends or other trends your company is building upon. I would just leave you with these final thoughts, and we can open it up to questions. To make the future happen, 4 things I'd recommend everyone follow is, first and foremost, know your customers inside and out. There's really no substitute for us as product managers than understanding a representative sample of our customers and understanding not only what their current pains are, but how do they think and what influences them. Because with customers, they're not going to tell you what breakthroughs they want, but if you understand them so well and can present next generation concepts to them, they'll tell you what they like when you show them what's possible through your product or your service. And as part of ensuring product market fit, make sure that your product has truly a differentiated value proposition. You know, whether it's some mix of ease of use, great cost of value, or better than anything that they have today. The way to make the future happen is to, through your product, make the value so great that customers just have to tell everyone how great it is, where you turn customers truly into your product's best advocates. And as we all know, word of mouth is really the most powerful way to drive adoption of your product, whether it's in a segment or across segments. And in structuring, creating your product so that it's delivering irresistible value, engage the organization. You know, as product managers, we have to make sure that the entire organization not only understands what the vision is of where the product is going and what the customer context is, why this will resonate with customers. We also need to make sure that the organization understands the role that they play, whether they're in user experience, engineering, operations, or other parts of the org, in making that product successful. And the reason why it's so important to engage the org in this way is to make sure the org is aligned to supporting the value in your product. Because every aspect of your product, whether it's the user experience, the functionality that engineering builds, you know, the messaging from a marketing perspective, the support that operations and other teams provide, those details make or break the value that the customer is seeing, and that is ultimately delivered through your product. And the last thought I would have in terms of making the future happen is, once you've launched that great product, measure what's working and what's not working with customers, iterate with customers, and engage closely with customers to understand, you know, not only what's working and not working, but also how their demands are evolving, so that you can identify opportunities and create and deliver new value. And this process of engaging with customers, testing out concepts, defining products with great value propositions, launching them in market and getting feedback and iterating and improving never ends. And that's what's exciting about product management. And these are some ways that you as product managers can really make the future happen. So I'll leave you with that thought. And I look forward to your questions, and I look forward to how you can make the future happen. So with that, I'm happy to open up for questions.
Thank you, Brendan. That was extremely thoughtful and thought provoking at the same time. So let me relay a question that came up. What Pian Pian is asking is curious to hear how do you think these trends will affect people's jobs and the skills that they need to have for the future.
Right.
And let me editorialize by saying 11 or 12 years ago, we could never have predicted that there will be so many app developers or there would be so many jobs for Android or iPhone developers out there, right? But yet here we are 10 years later. So, your thoughts on that, please.
Yeah, there's no question that these trends, like artificial intelligence and automation, in particular, will have an impact on the jobs of the future and the demanded skill sets of individuals in the future. This is not something this is something that's happened before. So just like the advent of the Excel spreadsheet and the word processor removed the need for for people whose career was or whose profession were typists or whose profession was to do slide rule calculations manually. While those positions ultimately disappeared, other positions arose that were focused more on financial analysis. In other words, thinking about how to structure analysis as opposed to doing the rote tedious tasks of analysis. It's the same thing with these trends. So, with self-driving cars and with self-driving vehicles, there's something on the order of 2 million truck drivers that work in the U.S. But at the same time, a lot of the truck driving companies have a hard time filling those roles. So while demand for those roles may decline, there will be other opportunities that arise, across industry sectors. The key for all of us, regardless of where you are in your career or what your background is to always constantly be learning and always constantly upgrading your skill sets to basically position yourself for the jobs of the future. So while there will be naturally some disruption, there will also be new roles that are created and new opportunities. And the key to capitalizing on that is education and continuous learning and training.
Okay, thank you, Brendan. Another question, and this comes from Hayato Waki. He asks, people around the world, it's they're used to interacting in a particular fashion, right? So okay, we have the Zooms, we have the video calls, the FaceTimes, and so on, and then there's social media, right? There's a Snapchat, the Instagram, celebrity influencers, and so on. How do you think this is likely to evolve? And you did throw in something there about, in your vignette about, smart assistant speakers, smart speakers, virtual reality, augmented reality, everyone walking into, a showroom together. So how could social media evolve? How could interactions between people evolve? How could, communications between people evolve?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, there's a very good reason why Facebook and Google and Apple are investing in augmented reality and virtual reality. It's a way to extend those experiences. So let's say Facebook, for example, is partnering with Ray-Ban in creating smart glasses that then can connect with your Facebook profile, as I understand. Same thing with Google or with Apple, is to have smart glasses that then connect with your mobile device. And so there's the opportunity to expand social engagement beyond the screen, the desktop or the laptop, but to expand it to to smart glasses or other smart devices, which then provides the potential for new forms of media that are then generated, say recording your a daily or an interaction through your smart glasses and posting it into your LinkedIn profile. It also presents opportunities for new forms of advertising. There's already initial talk about, well, in a world of augmented and virtual reality, how can brands participate in those experiences to basically highlight their offering to consumers? And I can only imagine that there'll be, for social influencers, that social influencers will expand how they engage in the content they create through augmented reality, virtual reality, and quite possibly through the Internet of Things, in terms of capturing data from or capturing videos or capturing images through through drones or other devices that then enable them to create even more interesting content for their followers and so forth. So those are some thoughts.
Thank you, Brandon. The next question is, and by the way, folks, thank you so much for these questions. Please keep them coming. Brendan, thank you for patiently answering all of them and sharing your insights. The next one, so everything described in the story, and this comes from May Wong. What she thinks is that, and I'm trying to paraphrase May, let me know if I got this correctly. So she says it makes her feel quite lonely. It makes her feel quite individualistic in a way, and everything seems to be motivated by money, by spending, by subscription. So where does empathy fit in, right? With with all of this possibility, with all of this accessibility, how is it going to fit in when we are designing our products as product managers, right? I mean, where do we build in empathy? What is that going to mean for us, right? So I hope I did not murder her question, but I think that seems to be the gist of the question.
Yeah. So I'll there's two parts to that. One is, what role, like that story that I told about the world in 2031, like what role does empathy play in that world? And I guess the first thing I would say is that was just a snapshot illustration of what the world could be. It doesn't mean that that's what the world will be. In terms of empathy, I mean, I think again, this is a little outside the context of the 8 technology trends, but we are, I think, seeing in the world a greater consciousness around things like climate change and the impact that we have on our communities and our society. And I would hope that will only continue. And so, and some of the technology trends actually play into a world where we are more ecologically conscious. For example, 3D printing. Like, one of the advantages of 3D printing is not just the ability to create products quickly, but also to eliminate waste in creating those products. Through additive manufacturing, where you're basically printing layers, you have far less scrap that then is, that you're then, throwing out. By moving toward, like a world where, things are increasingly powered by electricity and enabled through batteries that last longer, that hold more charge and so forth, that enables us, and we're already seeing this, is that increasingly sustainable energy through, say, solar and wind to generate electricity is growing rapidly, and the costs are coming down, which then in turn, helps, improve our world and the environment. So, take what that's why I also put in the quote from Niels Bohr, is that predicting the future is, or prediction is hard, especially about the future. That's just a snapshot of what the future could be. But I think these trends also play into, into supporting our communities and our environment. On the second part of it, which is, hey, as product managers, empathy with your customer is the starting point. And that's why I put that at the very top of my slide was like, know your customers inside and out. So like not only understanding what their current demands are, but understanding how do they work, like what influences them, what motivates them, and then in bringing a product to your customer, it's not necessarily just about the features and functionality in the product. It's about the total value that that product is delivering, including, things like, being socially conscious, say, like a product that's introduced from a company that dedicates, say, 1% of the profits to, to charitable causes. That's all part of the value of knowing your customer and knowing what motivates them and what's important to them, is not just the features and functionality of the product, but what the product stands for and what the company stands for. So those would be some thoughts on empathy.
Thank you, Brendan. Let's take a quick 2 to 3 minute timeout for shoutouts. Around 5:20 p.m. Is when we call for shoutouts. So anything specific that anybody would like to share? Anybody who's hiring? Anybody who's looking for new roles or open to a conversation? So let's take a quick 2 to 3 minute timeout for shoutouts, and we will resume with questions. I see some other questions coming in. I have a question of my own as well. So any shoutouts, please?
Sorry, my first time to join. I don't know what your definition of shout out is, but this is more around, I guess, in support to the technology trends. So here in Australia, there's a few startup, I guess, utilizing blockchain for financial enterprise application, where I guess retirement funds are sitting on a I call it a blockchain architecture, and the government started I guess being involved because obviously they wanna see what's going on those transactions, and it becomes like a development of a feed system of some sort, still a registry of some sort, but I guess that's just how I guess evolution is happening here in terms of blockchain.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not at all surprised. I mean, finance in blockchain, like DeFi or distributed finance, to date has been, the number one application that has emerged from blockchain, and there's a lot of exciting stuff going on in DeFi. There's a variety of services out there like Compound or others where, as a consumer, you can deposit funds in different cryptocurrencies, and then others can borrow funds in those cryptocurrencies, and then it creates an ecosystem that brings together borrowers or depositors and borrowers, all oriented around blockchain. What's also interesting is historically, a lot of the DeFi activity in blockchain has been all around the deposit and lending in cryptocurrencies. Just this week, I was reading about one of the blockchain projects, and it's now enabling, instead of because historically you've had to put up cryptocurrency as collateral if you are taking out a loan. If you wanted to borrow, in a cryptocurrency, you had to put down cryptocurrency as collateral. Now there's this one blockchain project is enabling you to say, put your house or other physical goods up as collateral so that you can then borrow funds, against that collateral, which is a first. So effectively what that means is, instead of getting your home improvement loan, from the bank, you could conceivably get your home improvement loan through a blockchain platform where the funds are provided by other participants in that platform. So if that's like having an impact on home equity loans and maybe even in the future mortgages, I'm not at all surprised or would not at all be surprised to see blockchain extend into, say, investment management or other, finance applications that we haven't really touched on in this discussion.
I just want to follow it up with a question, I suppose, more around your perspective on these. Do you think there should be a separation of tech from the finance side of things? Meaning, because I've seen the technology and how it can actually transform at scale. But I feel like the movement of replacing fiat or the current currency is potentially slowing down the adoption. I do think that they go hand in hand, but what's your perspective between, I guess, the tech side and the digital currency side of it for it to truly, I guess, go upwards and onwards?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, when we talk about cryptocurrencies, there's two broad types. There are the currencies that are intended to be true currencies, let's say like Bitcoin, but then there are also current cryptocurrencies that are actually, cryptocurrency isn't a good term for it. It's more like utility token is sort of a better term for it. So cryptocurrencies, like a great example of that is Bitcoin. Well, and we all know what's going on with Bitcoin, that it's gone up to, from, a negligible value up to $50,000 per Bitcoin. And you say, well, what's the value? What's the intrinsic value of Bitcoin? Well, it's not backed by a government. Its intrinsic value is really the fact that lots of other participants, individuals and now institutions, see it as an alternative store of value. That a community sees as an alternative store of value. And it depends on your perspective on, why is there value there? If you're in a country where, where the currency isn't stable or subject to inflation, Bitcoin is a great alternative versus being dependent on fiat currency in that country. If you're an institutional investor, the value you see in Bitcoin is that it's similar to gold. It's not correlated with other market assets, but it's certainly a speculative area. There's no central government standing behind Bitcoin saying that, yeah, well, we have taxation power to support this currency. So we'll see. I mean, it's hard to say where it goes. China, for example, is also talking about introducing its own digital currency, backed by the Chinese government. Could the Federal Reserve follow? It's hard to say. I think they're taking a much more wait and see approach. So I also have a lot of questions on where cryptocurrency, pure cryptocurrency, is going. Now, utility tokens are, I think, a different matter, whether it's Ethereum or whether it's DFINITY. When you buy Ether, or in the future, if you buy a DFINITY token, the intrinsic value is that it gives you the ability it basically gives you computing cycles, for your app in a data center. So there is intrinsic value in terms of computing power. And while they trade on an exchange, it's really driven by the demand, for building apps or using apps on those platforms. So I think I'm personally very excited around the potential of blockchain as a computing platform, that as an alternative to some of the options that we have today with the traditional cloud computing vendors.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thanks for answering it.
And folks, we have time until 5:45, and we usually do try to wind up by that time. This is so that we can devote more time to questions. Let me just throw something in there that we will follow up this session with a request, a quick survey. Just please let us know your thoughts. What did you find valuable? What could we have done differently? And that helps us as we bring in true product fashion. That helps us as we bring in more speakers. So please, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this deferred live, We would truly appreciate your participation in that survey. Now, very quickly, Brendan, my question as to what does this mean for product managers, right? So there is no dearth of information out there. There are plenty of blogs. There are so many things to read from. Uh, my question is, as product managers, as product leaders of today, how could we be preparing ourselves to stay abreast of these trends, right? How do we not fall behind the times? How do we keep our ears to the ground as to we could be building products which matter to our customers, even 5 years down the line, right? So I'm sorry if my question is vague, but it's truly about how do we stay abreast?
Yeah, so there's two parts to that. One is how do you stay abreast of the broader technology trends that are happening, but then probably even more importantly, how do you stay abreast of the demands of your customers, that you're trying to serve. So on the former, I mean, what I did, and this was a journey I went through starting about a year and a half ago, is I was curious myself about, well, where is tech more broadly going beyond my relatively narrow slice in software automation. And what I did was I literally just, did Google searches and started reading about different perspectives on where things were going. And I started to see common patterns like evolve around those 8 technology trends that I described. So that's what I'd encourage you is just to dive in, and you can use the work that I just presented as a starting point, or you can start from scratch and really just read everything you can that interests you and start trying to put together identify patterns across these trends and start putting together your own hypothesis on where things are going. But more importantly is how do you stay abreast of what's going on with your customers? Because that's what really matters in terms of delivering products that add value. Again, first and foremost, the lifeblood of any product manager is doing customer research. So you want to, in your day-to-day work, systematically be engaging with a representative sample of your customers. And the general approach I try to take is, regardless of whatever sector I'm working is the very first thing is formulate a hypothesis of who your target customer is, what their pain points are, and what your open questions are. And then with that hypothesis, then you can start trying to validate or refute that hypothesis. You can look at third-party industry analyst research, look at support tickets, look at comments in your company's forums, and start to talk with people inside your company to then further refine your hypothesis and further refine the questions that you have. But nothing is a substitute for doing customer research yourself. What I just described is the preamble to doing that. Doing one-on-one interviews with customers, following a structured interview guide is a great way to really, hone in on basically who your customer is, what do they do on a day-to-day basis, what are their key pain points, and also test out, key concepts for the product that you'd like to validate with them. And then whenever I do one-on-one interviews with customers, I always try to take copious notes and then make sure in a spreadsheet where there's, say, one dimension across the top of the spreadsheet, maybe it's by company size or whatever the major segmentation definition or segmentation dimension is to sort of lay out the results, column by column, where each column represents a customer. And then you can actually start looking across the columns and seeing, are there common patterns that start emerging, based on customer responses to your questions. And then that helps you to thematically identify what are the key pain points they have or what their interest is in your product concepts. Doing customer surveys is also a very good idea to validate what you think across a much broader sample of customers. And then that really helps you, the combination of qualitative research and quantitative research really helps you hone in on who's your target customer, what is their key pain point or their demand, and what should your value proposition be, and what should be the features that your product should have to deliver on the value proposition. I actually wrote an article about this. I'm happy to share it, Maheep, with you, and you can share it with the broader group afterwards. But it basically talks about the 5 steps toward creating value-driven products, and it all really starts with understanding your customers systematically and on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, thank you, Brendan. That does answer my question, and thank you for giving it that perspective. That how do we stay abreast of the changes, and as product managers or as product leaders, how do we envisage what the needs of our customers are going to be, and happy to share that article with the group. Again, please do fill in our survey in true product management fashion that helps us measure how we are doing. With that, any other questions for Brendan? We probably have 5 to 7 minutes left. Any other follow-up thoughts? Any other questions? Anything that we could pick his brains on? Going once, going twice. Well, thank you, everyone. That's a wrap.